All right. Good morning and welcome to this month's edition of United Way Facebook Live. This week we are talking about recovery because it is National Recovery Month, and all of those things that lead into recovery. Before we jump in, we want to be sure and say thank you to all of our sponsors. They are listed here on the cover, and they'll be streaming along the bottom of our broadcast as we go. And so today we have with us Virginia Guy with the Drug Education Council, sorry, Trista Stout Walker, who is our Community Impact VP, and Justine Bixler, who is our VP of Resource Development. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here this morning.
Yes, hello.
Thank you for having us.
So right off, I think I would like to start with Trista. You wrote in your blog this month about grace and how that can lead us to our day-to-day dealings with folks, and I think that could be a nice way to segue into talking about recovery. So tell us about what you meant when you were talking about grace.
Yes, so early on in the beginning of COVID-19, when I was calling all of our partner agencies, checking in with them, seeing, if they were operational and how their staff was doing and things like that. Chandra Brown and I were chit-chatting, and Chandra shared with me that, the whole experience really brought to light the need for grace, being forgiving, being understanding, being patient whenever you interact with others, because you really do not know what is going on behind the scenes or in their private or intimate lives. And so sometimes whenever we are in the business community, we take everything at face value. And we just need to keep that in the forefront of our minds. And especially over the past 18 months, our employees have brought their entire selves to work. So it's not just let me turn off mom and focus on being a professional. It's okay, no, let me be a professional and pray that no one hears the dog barking or the children giggling because there's somebody sitting underneath my chair while I'm on a call. And so as we talk about recovery, recovery is something that a lot of people are not open about. And so whenever you have those interactions, just be mindful of the struggles that someone may be having. And so that was my focus this month. And then, of course, our wonderful partners like the Drug Education Council that can assist with anyone that may be having difficulties with addiction or other recovery scenarios.
Perfect. Virginia?
Right. I couldn't agree more, Trista. This has been a time that has been extraordinarily unsettling for everybody. Schedules have been disrupted, lives have been disrupted. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. And, we've seen as a result of that, we've seen overdoses increase. We've seen relapses increase. We've seen a lot of the negative about it. But we've also seen a lot of the good. And like you said, there's a tremendous amount of grace and forgiveness. Recovery Month is a time for us to celebrate the 23 million Americans in long-term recovery. And I've seen some amazing things during this month of recovering people reaching out to those new in recovery to help stay connected, because we know that the opposite of addiction is connection. When people begin using harmfully, they begin to withdraw, they begin to isolate, they lose their friends that are good influences in their lives, a lot of their family that are good influences in their lives, and they start getting kind of into the point where then they're pretty much by themselves using. And so we know that the best thing we can do is connect them back with a recovering community, with healthy family, friends, and connections. So I've seen some amazing things during this time of those type of connections as well. So this is a time for us to celebrate those people in long-term recovery and to encourage others. I'd like to say, if anybody is out there and they're worried about a loved one or somebody who's using harmfully, please reach out. There's really no wrong door, is how I say. We've got a whole network of providers that will be able, if they're not the right agency, they'll be able to connect you with the one that can help. So please reach out, call me, call any of our partner agencies, and we'll get you to the help that you need.
And there is Drug Education's website in case you want to reach out to them directly. Justine, you have thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Virginia and Trista. And I think, they touched on it so well that the National Recovery Month theme this year is that recovery is for everyone, and to every person, every family, every community. And I think, everything that we kind of do at United Way about being united and forming that community safety net is that it's really everybody has the ability to enter into recovery. And then everybody has the ability to support recovery for somebody who needs it. And so it really does take a village or an entire community to lift that up. And like when we go out and we meet with businesses, and Virginia and her team might join us at Drug Education Council to talk about the work they do. It's always, it never ceases to amaze me how many people in just an average setting, whether that be at a financial institution or in a plant or a mill or within our own partner agencies, or in a professional setting, insurance, you name it, that so many people's lives have been touched by someone that's either experienced addiction to drug and alcohol or that is in recovery. And so you can really see how somebody whose life who's been impacted by their own actions or somebody else's that they know, they love, family member, friend, how that can kind of, I don't want to say negatively impact, but how much it weighs on just somebody else. And then on the plus side of that, you can see how much it weighs on the individual that's going through that, and then how it impacts their circle as a whole. And then on the plus side of that, when somebody goes into recovery, you can see how it kind of brightens that whole everybody that they touch and the lives that they touch. And, it's always about the individual and their chance of recovery. And so if everybody in their social network, their family and their friends support that, it increases the chances of that individual actually going into recovery and being successful through that process. And I know Virginia mentioned there's a lot of factors that go into that. Environmental, your genetic makeup, and there's a lot of things that are out of individuals' control. It's kind of how do they get there to begin with when you think about that. But it really does take all of us to come together as a community to either financially support organizations like Drug Education Council that are providing those services, or to volunteer. And certainly it takes all of us to advocate for that healthy response of recovery, and to celebrate all of those who are in recovery and the steps that they took to get there. It's obviously not an overnight process. And so, United Way, we're grateful for everybody who's willing to give towards those causes, advocate for those causes, and volunteer, provide support, maybe to a friend or a family member who needs it.
I'm sorry.
Also, one thing that I'll add is, if the individual is not willing or at a point where they're willing to accept help or get help, we can help the family. We know that sometimes the family and the loved ones suffer more than the person with the addiction. So, we can help the family. There's a lot of really neat support groups and programs for family members, a lot of educational opportunities. We also know that when a family gets help for themselves, the target person is 80% more likely to get help eventually. So if it's not always just about helping the person that's using with the addiction, it's also about helping the whole family. And we call this a family disease, and it affects everybody.
That's really interesting. So I guess when the family gets help, that gives them tools to be a better support system, or just that they're more healthy themselves, or some combination therein.
Well, it helps the family understand how the person doesn't mean to be addicted. There's family members, when a person develops addiction, the family responds in all kinds of different ways. Some people are angry, some people are scared, some people just want away from it. So what family support does is it helps them realize, I've never, ever, ever met anybody who meant to be addicted, whether they started out partying and having a good time and using, or whether they started out treating real pain. When they develop addiction, nobody ever intends to be in that position. So you learn a lot about that. You learn how the brain is altered. You learn how it impacts the family. You learn healthy ways of taking care of yourself, which then causes you to respond a little bit differently to the person and not buy into the drama, not play into the drama, to kind of take care of yourself. And sometimes when somebody's using, in order to sort of keep their gig going, they're sort of manipulating, and they're working grandma against, their brother and sister, they drive wedges in families, not intentionally, but it is to keep their addiction going. They truly believe deep in their heart that they cannot live without these drugs. And so they're going to do anything they can to keep this going. So when the family is no longer involved in that drama, sometimes the person's more likely to reach a point where they'll get help. And if not, the family just realizes that it's not their fault. They didn't cause it, they can't control it, and they can't cure it. And so that kind of affirming messages to the family also kind of helps settle everybody down. Not as angry, or they're not as scared. And it's a process. It takes a little bit of time, but we're here to help. There's a lot of people here to help family members, and as well as the individual. We kind of work with it. It's kind of a dual process in getting everybody the help that they need.
I think to kind of follow up on that too is to remember that it's not an overnight process, and somebody doesn't become addicted overnight. A lot of times people say, like, how could I have not seen that coming? And like Virginia said, that people that are addicted do a really good job of presenting that they are not, and that they're okay. And so you can be a really close friend or family member of somebody. This has happened, to me, just in friends that I've known over the years, where when they're out with a certain group of friends that maybe they know are not, not participating or not using or things like that, they present themselves in an entirely different way than they might in front of people who also are using, or their comfort is at a different level. And so you might see them think, I saw them last weekend and they were doing great. I have no idea how they, I have to read about them in the news, or get a text from another friend that says, that they're not okay, or that they passed away. And so I think to make sure that the family and friends are not overly hard on themselves, because the person has developed such a, they're used to having that shield up in front of people, that they don't want to see them that way or present that way. They do a really good job of kind of hiding that. And at the same time of like treating the friends and family, if you're in a group of people and everybody's doing one thing, people want to do that too. But as a friend or a family member, if you kind of can step out away from that or outside of that, then you can hope that the individual might follow suit. They might follow the good behaviors just as they follow the bad behaviors. So it's up to us to kind of help support them in that way too. If you know a friend who might be struggling, don't encourage that behavior, of them, or don't always ask them if they want to go out, or put them in situations or circumstances that might lead to, to furthering any addictive behavior.
Right. Justine, you're absolutely right. And one of the things that we saw during the shutdown was families and loved ones were identifying addiction more quickly, because everybody kind of got home. Adult children from out of town ended up at home. People started ending up at home. So what we saw were people were noticing things a lot more when everybody was kind of at home stopped. So young people coming home from college or coming home from jobs out of town, that, then family members started noticing things that they hadn't seen when the family just visited on Thanksgiving and Christmas and that kind of thing. So some of it we started noticing had probably been developing for a while, and it just presented itself during the time that everybody was kind of thrown together. So it was also the opportunity, many of our treatment centers stayed open and they were very safe about things. And I told family and individuals a lot of times, this is an excellent time to go to treatment. The world is kind of stopped right now. So this is a great time to go to treatment and to get into a recovery program. So a lot of good things happened in the middle of that. Now there's still the tragedy of, the drugs are so much stronger now. There's so many harmful drugs on the street that are killing people at just rapid rates because of the powerful substances that are in some of those drugs, the fentanyl and the carfentanil and the methamphetamine that people take unknowingly when they think they're taking something else. So, there's the good and the bad in this, and we're here to help any of the family, whether they're just identifying a problem or whether they got somebody that's, using harmful on the street or, whatever their individual situation is.
Trista, will you give us some ideas of what some of the partner agencies that we have that work with substance abuse and recovery, and then we'll go back to Virginia and let her get deep dive into the programs that they offer.
Yeah. So as always, 211, our human health and support hotline, is your first touch point when you're looking for resources in our community. Several of our partner agencies, Victory Health Partners, Lifelines Counseling, AltaPointe Health Services, Franklin Primary Healthcare, and Home of Grace, and the Salvation Army, just to name a few. In addition to Drug Education Council, have resources or programming that supports individuals that are in recovery. So please reach out to 211. Mary Howard and her team would be happy to connect you to those resources in the community.
Okay, Virginia, let's hear more about the specific programs that you offer.
Right. We offer prevention, intervention, and recovery support programs. So we do a lot of primary prevention programs. We know with any chronic, progressive, potentially fatal disease, the most cost-effective way is to prevent it, whether we're talking cancer, diabetes, any of the chronic diseases. So there's a lot of strategies that we can use with young families and young children and school-based programs. A lot of good prevention strategies. Then we know that in spite of our best efforts, some people are going to use harmfully. We want to intervene in that use as soon as possible and stop that from becoming an addiction. And then we know if people have crossed that line to addiction, that they need the treatment and the help that they can get. So we catch them on the other end with recovery support. So we're here to assist families with whatever level of care that they need.
You were talking, it's been a while, back when we used to all get to meet in person, about really like pushing it off their first exposure for like 16 to 18 or 18 to 21 or 21 to 25 really makes a huge difference in how substances can take over one's life when they start young.
Right. Our biggest message to parents, we know that there's a lot of risk factors that make you more likely to become addicted, like a genetic predisposition. Justine was talking a little bit about that we can't do anything about. But we know that there are some environmental factors that we can control. And one of the major ones is age of first use. The longer we can delay the age of first use, the less chance that person has of developing addiction at any point during their life. So if somebody begins using, whether it's alcohol, marijuana, or any other drug at age 14, they have a 47% chance of becoming addicted at some point in their life. That same person, if they wait till 21, it drops down to 9%. So that is statistically significant. I have parents all the time saying, I don't think I can get them to 21. And I say, well, let's get them as far as they can. The more you can delay from 14 to 15, from 15 to 16, from 16 to 17, the longer you delay, the better chance your child has of not developing addiction. And then they can become an adult that has what I call a normal relationship with alcohol and drugs, which doesn't just mean that they can have champagne toast at a wedding or in a, alcohol in a social setting, but that they can also use, pain medication when they have dental surgery or other surgery without risk of developing addiction. So we know that if we can delay, and parenting is probably the hardest job. It's absolutely exhausting. And about the time kids get to be about 14 or 15, parents are really tired. They've done so much and they're just exhausted. And so that's when they really need to step in, because that's when the child is becoming who they are. They're in those risk-taking years that are wonderful developmental stages, but they really are a challenge for parents. So that's when you really need to, pull up your bootstraps and really lock in, know who your kids are hanging out with, know their parents, know where they're spending their money, talk to them about your family values, about what you expect from them. One of the wonderful things about kids is they pretty much do what we expect of them. So if you tell them, well, I know you're going to drink anyway, then that child is. But if you tell them, I know that I want to keep you from developing addiction. It's not just illegal, but it's harmful to your brain. You wear a helmet when you're playing sports. I want to take care of that brain and not introduce it to alcohol, marijuana, or other drugs until that brain is fully developed in your early 20s. So the longer you can delay and get that child on into that, get that frontal lobe of their brain developed, the healthier our whole community will be.
And I think you can start that messaging early. I remember when I was little and I would go out to ride my bike and my mom would say, protect your brain, and the thought was like with a helmet. But then the older I got, I realized when actually I went to St. Paul's in 11th grade, they started a class called No Leadership, which is KNOW. And the students in that class, we signed a pledge, that we wouldn't use drugs or alcohol or tobacco products. But the goal was for those students to teach the younger students to start that messaging early. So if you were in like kindergarten or first grade, we were talking about helmets and seat belts. And then the older you got, the students got, you realize like in 5th grade that you needed to talk to them about their older siblings, that they might come home from a football game or they ride with them to school and they have beer cans in their car, and they're being exposed to that in some capacity. And so I think, as I'm not a parent yet, but my plan is to beat the communication, because I can assure you, if your children are hanging out with their siblings that are older, their family, at a holiday party, or other students that have older siblings, that the exposure is always there. And so when I think about my friends, maybe whose household sort of took an approach to ignore discussions because they thought it was better to hold off, versus those who just threw it all out there, you saw how their behavior, was different, or they were more prepared as an individual to handle either when they were exposed for the first time or when they went off to college. Maybe they never drank before. They go to college, you have free reign. Like Virginia said, your parents aren't around you anymore. You basically can do whatever you want. And there's nobody, kind of overseeing that. And so having those discussions early in whatever capacity, I think, is so important. And the thing that stood out to me the most in high school was that your brain as a teenager goes through periods of plasticity. And if you use drugs or alcohol during those periods of plasticity, you can't get that back. So it really stuck out to me, like, I don't want to be dumb, so the longer I wait, that wasn't cool. And so that helped give me a shield of protection of like, that preventing it for as long as you can, or holding it off as long as you can, how helpful that is. And so like, when somebody as a business reaches out to us and we're able to talk about these programs that Virginia mentioned and how they can support them, through a financial gift, you're able to support those alcohol and drug presentations, and the Drug Education Council and our other partners that Trista mentioned coming out to schools, churches, youth groups, sports practice, you name it, to talk to children at an early age about that. So their exposure to the prevention message is early. And it's a lot more cost effective that way than the recovery approach. And then also Drug Ed does volunteer juvenile drug testing, right? Voluntary juvenile drug testing. So they can
But that's not like on your permanent record. That's just within the family.
Right. It's an anonymous drug screen. It's just for the parents to have the information. It's a real drug test, but we don't use the chain of custody because we don't be used in any type of litigation or custody, battle or anything like that. This is just for parents to find out if their child is using. And we like parents to use it as a prevention tool. Say you're going to buy your child a car, and say, look, I can drug test you at any point, and if you're using, I'm going to take the car away. See, and that way you're giving the child an opportunity when they're out with their friends for you to sort of be the heavy, for them not to say, no, I don't want to do this, for them to say, look, my parents have got me this car. I'll lose it. I'll never be able to go out of the house or go anywhere forever. I know they don't know what they're talking about, but let them blame you, and be their excuse for them, so that so that they have just one more arsenal. It's a little bit, when you have a Wednesday afternoon discussion with a kid, a lot of kids really do not really want to use drugs. A lot of it just, they'll make a different decision on Friday night at 11 o'clock when they're with all of their friends. It's a lot easier to kind of go along at that point. So work with your children, give them the resources and the tools that they need to be able to resist those high risk situations, and let them blame you, so that they're not having to be the nerds or the square kids. Let them, be able to say, look, my parents will kill me. I'll lose everything, that kind of thing. And then give them skills of how to get out of that situation, particularly field parties. In Mobile, we've got a tremendous number of field parties. Those are incredibly dangerous for kids to be there, even if they're not drinking.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Justine, but I did think it was worth mentioning that it was within the family that could be used as a tool and not, but so I think this is a good place to do last thoughts. I think Justine was moving in that direction. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Justine? And then we'll
just that, that it takes an entire community to support somebody to get through from their first steps, when they're first thinking about making a decision to use drugs and alcohol, maybe at an early age. And I feel like in my experience, it seems even earlier, that starting even earlier than it used to back in my day. From what I hear, there are our partners like drug ed. And so I think as adults and parents and community members, we can't start talking about it early enough. And then when I think about our community as a whole, maybe you've never come across somebody, there's nobody in your life or that you love that's been impacted, negatively from use of drugs or alcohol. And you say, well, like, this doesn't have anything to do with me. But when we think about, having healthy communities and healthy economies and what we want our community to be like for future generations and the people we want in our community making an impression on our youth, that's where coming in and supporting organizations like Drug Ed or the United Way, really help lift us all up, as a whole, because it really does. It impacts everybody, every family, every community, every workplace. I know Drug Ed also does job-related issues and can help, if you're an individual on the job and gets caught, fails a drug test or gets caught using drugs or alcohol, they can help with some of those drug-free workplace environments. I know Virginia can speak to that much more than me, but I think when you think about supporting organizations like this and how it really does impact all of us, we're grateful for everybody who steps up and who recognizes that and understands that. And you can, of course, support financially specific programs. If the anonymous juvenile drug testing, saved your child's life, you can support specific programs like that at Drug Ed, or you can support the organization or a group of organizations that all work on those issues, like Tristan mentioned. Listed some of our other folks at Salvation Army and Goodwill and that work on that. And so I just think it takes all of us to get somebody in recovery. I don't think it's an easy process, and I think we should celebrate the people who are there and recognize what they went through to get there, because of the so many factors that go into how somebody becomes addicted in the first place. So thanks to everybody out there who is in recovery and who's taken all those steps It really, it means the world to all of us, and we're here to support you, and are grateful for the impact you have on our community.
Mm-hmm.
Trista?
So really just to add to what Justine shared, I really just want to speak to the audience. And if something we discussed today touched your heart, please join us in our efforts to address recovery and the other battles that we face every single day. And at United Way, we encourage the community to, of course, give, financially support our partner agencies like Drug Education Council and the 45 other partner agencies. You can always volunteer with United Way and our partner agencies. I'm sure Miss Virginia has lots of volunteer opportunities that she would love to share with the community. And then also the last thing, advocate for the importance of recovery services and the other services provided by United Way and our partner agencies in Southwest Alabama.
Virginia?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody who already supported and encourage them to continue. You know, we're stronger because of your support. Our agency would not be where we are today without the long-term support we've received from the United Way. So I'm incredibly grateful. I'm proud to be part of a network of agencies in the community. It makes all of our work richer, and I just encourage everybody to continue to support it, and I thank you so much for all that you're doing.
And I'd just like to add, thank you, ladies, for joining us this morning at our monthly Facebook Live. And I would say for folks who are in the process of recovery, that it is a process, and sometimes there's some stumbling along the way, and if that happens, it's okay. Just keep moving forward and know that you have support, and that we are all here, and the United Way programs that are United Way partner agencies that support those programs want to help you succeed. So don't let setbacks set you back too far. And good luck and congratulations on everyone who has made it and is succeeding in recovery. And we will be back next month, same time, Friday, the fourth Friday of the month. And we will be talking about a variety of issues, and the safety net included. And I want to thank our sponsors. You saw them streaming along the bottom as we chatted. Thank you guys again, and have a wonderful rest of your day.